Yo, what's up? We're doing cell communication. Your boy Brandon,
It's your boys.
Taylor. What's up? It's Alex. Kai's out of town, but we're slamming this anyway.
Alright, so first up in cell communication, we got direct contact. Direct contact is basically anything that's a cell touching a cell, pretty much. You got your plasma desmata, which is the little tiny gaps in between plant cell walls and membranes. And you can see those right there. And then animal cells have a similar thing. They got gaps in between their membranes, but they're called gap junctions in animal cells. And another way cells bind to each other if they're not directly touching all the time is binding surface proteins. These are just things like in your blood. When you have one, these shapes are kind of oversized to exaggerate it, but you have one that's like a triangle shape, another one that fits a triangle shape, and they fit together perfectly, and then that's how they talk. The next one is paracrine. Paracrine signaling is basically a cell secretes some sort of hormone or some sort of chemical like that, and it reaches the other cells and tells the other cells what to do. It's usually secreted in extracellular fluid in the body, and it's used only for local little regulations. A lot of bacteria use this too as a survival mechanism to help talk to other bacteria so they can work together. Alright, then the next one is autocrine. My fancy little drawing right there. Autocrine is basically a cell signals itself. So like this example was a cell, it has those little triangle enzymes and it pushes those out and it creates the triangle enzymes. Then the triangle enzymes come back and bind to that protein receptor, and then it causes a change inside the cell. And that's basically what autocrine is. The next one would be synaptic signaling. A good example of this is usually neurons in the brain, and it's signaling across a very small space. And this one is most like paracrine, except it's only from one cell to another specific cell. And it must have a synapse or something like that in between to help these little chemicals flow and make sure they get from one point to the other, the sender to the receiver. The last one is endocrine. Endocrine is the longest distance one, and it is used basically just to get everywhere in the body. It's mostly used in the bloodstream and other fluids, and the most common example of this would be hormones that go throughout the body, and they reach every cell in the body, but only some of them actually manage to make a change because of the hormones.
Alright, so transduction. Each step in a signal transduction pathway, it changes its form. The most common shape change is protein. Signal transduction pathways include phosphorylation cascade, which is a series of protein kinases, adds phosphate groups to the next one in line, and that activates it. Enzymes called protein phosphatase remove the phosphate group. That's important. Second messengers diffuse readily through cytosol and help signals broadcast quickly.
Alright, so there are three different types of cell communication. The first one is reception. I'll be covering that one. Reception is just a signaling molecule. It's when a signaling molecule or a ligand binds to a receptor protein, causing it to change shape, which is the initial transduction of the signal. In reception, there's three different types of cell surface transmembrane receptors. The first one is the G protein coupled receptors. These work with G proteins to produce the signal. The second one is the receptor tyrosine kinases. These react to the binding of signaling molecules by forming dimers and then adding phosphate groups on the cytoplasmic part of a monomer. These allow for several pathways of a cell to be triggered at once. And then the third and last one is a ligand-gated ion channel. They open up or close in response to binding by specific signaling molecules, regulated by flow of specific ions across the membrane.
The way I remember cell communication, it's kind of like you're all in a big school, and you're all individual cells, but you all need to communicate with each other somehow. So direct contact would most likely be you talking or passing a note to the friend you're sitting right next to. A good example of paracrine signaling would probably be like you talking to a group of your friends, but only a couple of your friends can hear you because everyone else is too far away. Now, synaptic sibling, pretend you like this girl in class, but you don't want anyone else to know. She sits all the way across the room. So what do? You send her a little love note in a paper airplane, and you make sure you make eye contact with her, and you throw it, and she catches it.
So cute.
Then autocon signaling is kind of like you found that note you wrote to yourself, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I had to do that. And then you actually end up doing it. Now, endocrine system is a lot larger, a lot bigger. So pretend you suddenly got a giant boost of confidence, okay? And you go and you steal the intercom, and you decide to ask that girl out because she shot you down earlier. But in this one, everybody hears the message you're trying to send, but only a select few hear it.
Cells communicate by sending and receiving signals. Signals may come from the environment or they may come from other cells. In order to trigger a response, these cells must be transmitted across the cell membrane. Many signals are transmitted into a cell by first binding to a receptor protein.